Well, hello. Once again, all my friends out there, many of whom may be in Tibet, I don't know. My name is Leonard Wells. I'm pleased to meet you, delighted to meet you and make your acquaintance. I'm sometimes referred to as a frosty old bugger. I live in a little town called HASLINGDEN, which is, I think it's the third highest town in England. Not in the UK, because in Scotland there are probably much higher towns, but in England I think it's the third highest. We are 900 feet or 300 meters above sea level, and boy does it get windy here. I call it the Windy City, after Chicago in America, which is also called the Windy City. I like it here. The houses are stone built. My house is a tiny little terraced house, like many others, rows and rows and rows of them. They were built by the mill owners, the cotton mill owners, for their workers. They were built to last. And this house was built in the 19th century and will probably last another century. On the face of it, there's nothing to knock it down, you know, nothing to cause it to fall down. Well, I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. I've not really thought about saying hello to each of you individually before, but I'm going to say hello now. I'm 71. Next year I'll be 72, surprisingly. And I've been very lucky in my life. I received a reasonably good education. I didn't work very hard, unfortunately, stupid boy. But I managed to get 2 O-levels and 2 A-levels rather, English and French, and 7 O-levels. I've been very lucky in my work. In my time, I've worked for Christians, Muslims, and Jews. I've worked for the government, I've worked for banks. I've been a professional driver for many years. Consider myself a reasonably good driver, most men do. I smoked for 40 years. I think the reason I smoked was to make myself a little smoke screen, because I was very shy of people, always backward at coming forward. So hiding behind a cloud of smoke, especially in the presence of ladies, because I was very shy with ladies. Don't get me wrong, I like them very much. One of the things I remember particularly about life in the early days was that every town was full of cinemas. My hometown of Warrington had 14 cinemas. 14 cinemas. And they changed their programme, usually twice a week. So there was roughly 20-odd different films, and even more sometimes, because most cinemas showed 2 films, an A film and a B film, which made it a good night's entertainment. And when you went to the cinema, it would be full of people smoking. It was horrendous. As you walked in, if you walked in the dark, you could see the smoke rising in clouds. And quite often, the light from the projector, projecting the film onto the screen, would go through a cloud of smoke, and you would see the smoke going curling upwards. And on the back of the seats in front of you, there would be ashtrays for each seat, and usually they were full of cigarette ends and ash, and there'd be constantly people would be lighting a cigarette while the film was on, and so on and so forth. And I'm not surprised so many people got cancer, because even if you didn't smoke yourself, you must have been breathing in a heck of a lot of smoke. And I gather that no doubt, that the tobacco companies in America put money into films. And very often, not only would the audience be smoking, but the actors in the film would be smoking. So it was a constant encouragement to smoke. And they were professionally put together, these cigarettes. I mean, there was some senior service and players with a picture of a sailor on the front. So you got the impression that smoking was a very manly thing to do. Not too many women smoked in those early days. That came later. The other thing I remember about the cinemas, of course, the back row was where you did your courting and canoodling with the opposite sex. And one of the things I can remember is that in my time, probably in the 50s, you could go to a cinema as a man, and outside, if you were lucky, you would find a girl on her own, and you would go up to her and say, "Can I take you in?" And taking her in, buying her ticket, gave you the chance of a little canoodle on the back seat. If you were lucky, you might manage to get your arm round her in the first hour or so. Not realising that really girls shouldn't do that. Let themselves be picked up in that way, but that was the way it was. I mean, if you think about it, you could go to a dance, and in those days there were lots of dances, and you could ask a perfectly strange lady, stranger to you, to get up, and you could put your arms around her and waltz around the room. So we got a little bit closer to each other in those days. The other thing I remember about my early days was that most people's houses were heated by coal, a coal fire in the main living room, and there might be a gas fire in the parlour, which was the front room. The parlour was the room where you showed guests into. And very often there'd be a piano there, because most young children were sent to piano lessons. Some kind of music lessons, but mostly piano. I took piano lessons for a couple of years. I can't play a note. I was hopeless. I couldn't understand why all those dots were in different places on those lines on the music. If they put numbers next to them indicating which finger you were supposed to use, then I was a little bit wiser. I could play something. The other thing which stands out in my memory about those days was that very few people had a car. It was usually the headmaster or police sergeant or a doctor who had a car, bank manager of course. But most streets were empty of cars. Very few, as I say, had a car. Most people only rode in cars when they had a taxi or went to a funeral in a funeral car. And a funeral was a big event in those days. And after the funeral, everybody went to a hotel somewhere or had a meal somewhere. And it was a social occasion. But I found in most families that it got that way, that you only met your family at funerals, and it was rather depressing. My family was rather like that, but that was my own fault, because I was a lapsed Catholic. I was brought up very strict Catholic, and it went over the top for me. And when they started talking about three gods in one, I'm afraid I lost the plot, and I just felt that God wasn't that complicated, and that there was only one God. That's what I felt. Well, I waffle on. As I say, my name is Leonard Wells. I'm 71, I'm a bachelor. I'm planning to marry a very attractive spinster lady living in Bucharest, quite a bit younger than me, so I'm very lucky. What she sees in an old goat like me, I don't know. The one thing she does like is my beard, and she's made me promise not to shave it, so by the time I get to Bucharest next, I will look like Father Christmas. We're hoping to get married at Easter. Of course, the big changes in the world since I was a young man have been in technology. Who would have thought we could have a mobile phone? I mean, when I was a boy, the only phones, very rarely did anybody have a phone at home, very rarely. most of the home phones, most of the phones that you used were in phone boxes. You put coins in the machine, and there was a button A and a button B. And if you pressed button B, you got your money back if you couldn't get through. When you got through, you had to press button A, and the coins would drop into the box, and you spoke to the person at the other end. Usually you had to get the operator to put you through, but then gradually they brought in automatic exchanges, so you would dial and you would hear click, 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 click. Now, of course, you just go on your mobile phone and you can talk while you're crossing the street. Rather dangerous. I mean, I have seen ladies pushing prams talking into their mobile phone. How they can keep one eye on the traffic, I don't know. I'd be terrified if I was sitting in a pram and somebody was pushing me across a busy road while talking into their mobile phone. It would be like being with a driver who doesn't wear a seatbelt and doesn't keep his eye on the road. Well, I've waffled on. I've tried tonight to get to know you individually. It's a bit difficult, but I'm trying to imagine you, because between you and me, I don't get that many viewers. The most so far is about 3,500, and that was when I spoke about a Nokia phone. That seemed to get everybody agitated and excited. Some I've got up to 500 and something. So I hope I must learn to smile a bit more and be less bombastic and keep off my high horse, I've been told. So I'm going to close now. It's getting time for me to go to bed. I'm off to London tomorrow for a few hours, which I do once a month. So I've got to be up fairly early. God bless, while it's still legal in the UK to say God bless. Take care, and bye for now.